Today on Happily Ever After, we have a very miserable looking Liz. Well, I guess if it's this guy, that would be the look you would expect. Ed taunts Liz with bushes all around. I dare you to throw your ring into it. I dare you, Liz.
Are those wedding bells? One day.
You just made up. Maybe give it 10 hours. See if it sticks. Hello and welcome to Reality Recapped, where I recap all of the trashiest reality shows. My name is Heather. I have a degree in psychology. It's through that lens that I watch these shows and make my comments. Please keep in mind that I have not met with any of these couples, so everything that I state is simply an opinion. My channel is a little bit of education and a lot of snark.
For Liz and I, the fight after the engagement party was perhaps our biggest fight ever. Going to bed that night was like, okay, I think this is like it.
I would disagree that that's your biggest fight ever. I think the audio clip that was leaked of you yelling and berating Liz was probably much bigger than this one. Of course, you knew you were on camera this time, so I'm sure you were a little more cautious with your words.
But, at the end of the day, through all of this, we both decided that we wanted to work on our relationship. We haven't given up.
Am I surprised that they're back together? Absolutely not. I saw in the last video, and I stated in the last video that they're definitely back together based on the fact that they were doing the interviews together still and talking about this huge argument. Of course, this is also part of their cycle. They break up, they get back together, they break up, they get back together.
Ed has insecurities and he's very jealous. And as angry and emotional as I am, and I'm like, this isn't gonna work out, I know that I don't wanna give up on him.
I wanna say that I'm struggling a little bit right now to remain empathetic to Liz and to the situation. It's pretty frustrating. It's so clear what's happening and how horrible this relationship is. But this is on TV, and I feel like if this stuff is going to be presented, I will at least want to have an opportunity to speak back to it and to comment on it. This isn't normal. These aren't normal relationships, and I just want to, have a voice in that direction, I guess.
We had a really rough patch, but the reason why I didn't leave is because I do love Ed.
So they're not giving us any information in terms of how long ago was the engagement party. Is this the afternoon after? Is this months after? That would be helpful. The other thing that I want to acknowledge is what she said about that she loves Ed. And I don't think she loves Ed. I think Ed reminds her of how she felt as a child when her mom wasn't around. And it might not exactly feel the same, but it's similar enough and familiar enough that Liz is getting kind of hooked into something here. It's hard to understand why somebody is going to continue to go back. Subconsciously, what I believe is happening, and again, this is my opinion, I have not talked to Liz. My opinion is that subconsciously, she's trying to work out the trauma that happened in her childhood with this person. And once I think she recognizes that that's the dynamic and that's what keeps getting her pulled back in, and she instead shifts her focus away from solving things with Ed to reassessing what happened to her in her childhood and dealing with that with a therapist one-on-one and solving that trauma, she has the potential to get hooked into situations like this that aren't good for her. Not because she doesn't think she's deserving of more. I think she understands that it's the familiarity, I think, that pulls you in. And it's hard to understand from an outside perspective. So it's important to go easy on people that are dealing with these dynamics because we don't fully understand the pull in those situations and how strong that is.
And the love that I have for him, and I know and truly believe Ed is worthy. And I am willing to do everything I can to prove to him that we can make this work.
This is another facet that I spoke about in another video about the ownership of the person that's in the abusive relationship, the victim in that relationship, to feel like they have to take care of the other person. They have to help the other person. They have to assist the other person. I think there's socialization that happens to women as girls that makes us especially prone to think that our role is to serve other people, to help other people, to always turn the other cheek and forgive and help and bolster. And I feel like that's very problematic. I don't think that should be taught. I think kindness should be taught, absolutely. Empathy should be taught, absolutely. But we all have to carry our own weight in life. You're not responsible for your partner. You're not responsible for them taking care of themselves. And if they're failing to do that consistently, that's not a relationship that's good for anybody. It's something that's going to weigh you down. We all have to carry our own weight. We all have weight. We all have things that we need to work through. No one gets away with nothing, unfortunately. But it's really codependent to take on somebody else's responsibilities of what their work is in life. I want to be clear that help in a relationship is different than what I'm talking about here. I'm not saying you shouldn't help your partner. I'm saying that there's a line of what is healthy assistance and what is codependent assistance.
Let me say this, even before we get into the engagement party, I'm sorry. All that stuff about you wanting to be a lesbian, that was just my insecurities and my trust issues. And I mean, you're young, you're hot. I saw her and I didn't like it. And it made me mad at her and I took it out on you and I'm sorry.
Ed's always been really good at apologizing. And he does it over and over and over again. And he always says, I learned this, I've grown, no, I'm not going to do that anymore. And then he does the same thing over and over and over again. So this is why I'm curious about the timeline. Again, if it's been months and he's had an opportunity to really reflect and change, that's one thing. If this is like a week or two later, I think this is all BS. I think this is all manipulation. To have a complete turnaround from what he was saying in the last episode to what he's saying now, I feel like for it to be genuine, it would take time and it wouldn't be like he flipped a switch. And that's how it feels to me. It feels like he flipped a switch and now everything's different and better. And we know him, we know this pattern of saying that he's gone to therapy and he's changed, or he's had this insight and now he's changed. And again, change is possible, but it takes a lot of time. And I worry that this is an additional manipulation, which I think that we've all seen him do.
Where I was wrong is I always jumped to conclusions. I think I got the jealous gene. I was always teased as a child and I never really dated through high school. So it's more like, well, you have something beautiful and someone's going to take it away. That's how I feel. Like it's too good to be true. So I think I'm always going to have to work on that.
I may always struggle with insecurity, but I want to kind of unpack how he presents things, right? So he says, here's what I always do, and here's what I've learned, and I'm not going to do anymore. He knows to package his apologies with, this is where I went wrong, and this is what I'm not going to do anymore. But of course, we've also all heard this before. We've heard this, I'm insecure. And then he also couples that with the poor me small violin playing, which is, I was always teased and never really had a girlfriend. So he lays on the woe is me, I'm pathetic, feel sorry for me.
I was constantly cheated on. I think it's a trigger, when I say no or please believe me.
And I don't trust you.
You don't trust me. It brings that trauma back up. It makes me feel like, okay, you're questioning me and you're saying this. I was like, I think it's you.
Let me own that. It's me. I think there's a lot of internal stuff that you're dealing with, and there's a lot of internal stuff that I'm dealing with. And unless we can get that out of the way, we have a better chance of failing.
I agree with that sentiment. However, notice that she has a lot of internal stuff going on, and she's not projecting stuff onto Ed. She's not saying, hey, you're cheating on me, you're cheating on me, you're cheating on me. So the way that they're responding to this trauma is very different. Ed is very abusive as a result of what he has going on. And I don't see Liz, I see Liz reacting to things that he's saying to her and completely going below the belt. I agree. But I don't see her treating him as horribly as he treats her. Everything seems reactive. Again, she shouldn't have said some of the things that she said. It's really out of line, not okay, not good for a relationship. But I also think that abusers want you to get in the muck with them, and they know where your buttons are, and they do a very good job of extracting from you the energy that they're looking, which muddies the water, and it also creates a validation that you really do care because you're getting that upset and that worked up over it.
We have a better chance of failing.
Yeah.
I want to marry you, but I don't want to be a divorcee again. And you don't either.
No.
Let's get through this, then we can talk about if we're ready to get married. And when it feels right, we'll know. I think we'll know.
He always dangles that carrot of marriage. I think that's something that he really wants, and I think it's something that Liz has probably shared that she also wants. But maybe the carrot of a happy relationship would be more tantalizing at this point.
Even though our relationship, it seems like it's always, on edge, we always end up coming back together because we're crazy, we're weird, we're different. For me, there's no walking away. And I'm not one to give up, but I do see Ed as someone easily to give up. So I don't even know if he's ever going to be ready to get married.
I just want to publicly announce that quitting things is not always a negative. Sometimes it's really freeing. Sometimes it's exactly what you need to do. And again, she's not in control over what Ed does and how he heals. And continuing to stay in a situation where someone is showing you that they're going to apologize and do the same exact thing the following day, that's not strength. And what you're doing is you're being disloyal to yourself and your own experience in that relationship. And you're putting somebody else's needs above your own. So let's banish this idea that we have to stick it out, we have to stay in. Let's give ourselves permission to reassess our relationships as time goes on, as our needs change, as our values change, as our partners change. Let's give ourselves the freedom to re-examine those things. Ed and Liz are back on the moped, and they end up going to a therapy appointment.
Call it a breakdown in our relationship with the fight after the engagement party. And then I had therapy that following Friday, and I just said, I'm going to therapy. You're welcome to join. And she said, I would love to go. Yeah, I'm good.
I'm good.
Maybe blankies?
Okay.
I'm happy that Ed's going to therapy. Of course, I don't know, but I do worry that this is a manipulation. I think he knows that he's going to come off on this season as really toxic and problematic. And I think he does this a lot. He acts horribly, and then he throws out his get out of jail free card therapy, and then he's absolved of all of his sins. And then the next season we get to watch him being the same exact way. So I worry about that. I worry that he is manipulating the viewers. I worry that he's also manipulating Liz. So they get into this session, and she gives them blankets. And I wonder if they're kind of weighted blankets, which make you feel a little bit more comfortable. And Liz kicks off her shoes. This is very unusual. I think the therapist is trying to create a situation where they feel really safe and comfortable. But don't assume that all therapists are like this. And don't ever assume that you should just kick off your shoes and put them on the sofa. In anybody's home or business or what have you. Okay. Sidetracked. All right, I'm back on track.
What do you want to give each other credit for that you did well?
She got up at 5:15 this morning.
Wow.
And went and worked out for an hour and a half while I slept in.
Classic Ed. encouraging Liz for exercising. And he's been doing this all along, telling her that she's overweight. She needs to go work out. We saw that conversation she had with Alex where he doesn't ask what she's up to. If she's working out, he leaves her alone and he lets her work out. So what is being designed as a way to open up the conversation for praise, Ed is using it to continue to push his own agenda, which is Liz is overweight and she needs to lose weight. Of course, it's packaged as this is a praise for you. It gets complicated, right? How do you call somebody out on this? The underlying message is different than what is presented on the surface.
I want to give Ed credit for the other day. I can't remember what the topic was, but he kept kind of like wanting to push at it for a minute, but I was like, I need a moment. So then he gave me space. So that's
You're learning to give her space.
Yeah.
Right? We're recognizing what are our partner's triggers.
Yeah.
Given the relationship that Ed and I are in together, it's very clear that we need professional help.
I agree with that, but I also don't think you need to have a really horrible relationship to go to therapy. If you're having trouble opening up communication, or maybe you don't speak or communicate in the same way, therapy can be a way of bridging that gap so that you can understand your partner and where they're coming from. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a bad relationship to go to therapy. It can just be a way of improving what is already good too.
Today, we're going to talk about security. What does security represent to her? You can use that topic to talk through these questions.
Okay. So in regard to security, what are your core beliefs that are part of your position?
So I was curious about the handout that they received, and I saw Dreams Within Conflict written on it. So I looked that up, and I'm pretty confident that this is the PDF that they're reading from. It's important in couple therapy to talk about the rules, the kind of the parameters of how you discuss things. And this is an excellent way of setting up a dialogue and the way that you can dialogue and kind of what the roles are when you're the speaker versus the listener. So the framework is kind of set up for them to have a discussion that can be productive where both parties can feel heard. I like the quote on the bottom. You don't want to have the kind of relationship in which you win and are influential in the relationship, but wind up crushing your partner's dream. You want the kind of relationship in which each of you support one another's dreams. If your dreams connect, so much the better. So back to Ed and Liz. Ed is reading the PDF and he asks Liz a question about security using this PDF.
In regard to security, what are your core beliefs that are part of your position?
Well, it goes back to my last relationship. One day we just fought and he got off my phone line and then I got stuck with a $3,000 payment. So for me, I don't ever want to be back in a position where I'm starting from rock bottom.
What did that require of you to be able to get yourself back to a place where you weren't dependent on somebody else?
Sending my daughter to live with her dad for a little bit, sleeping in my car.
So security for you represents
That I can support myself without anybody else's help.
I had no idea. The fact that you lived in your car just breaks my heart. That just breaks my heart.
He looks sad, he looks tired, but he isn't crying and he's wiping out his face. And I don't know, but it feels manipulative. And it feels like he's trying to evoke emotion that he doesn't have in this scenario.
Since Ed and I got engaged, I've been working a lot less hours. I'm the manager at the restaurant I've been working at for 3 years. Before we got back together, I worked 6 days a week, 10-hour shifts to 12-hour shifts. And lately, I haven't tried to pick up any shifts because there's a conflict of kind of making Ed feel secure that I'm not out late or anything like that. So it's just hard.
But, so may I make a request?
that's not what we're doing in this
Okay.
part.
So this is why that PDF was so helpful, because in this moment, in this role that he's in, he's the listener. He's not the speaker. So it gives Liz an opportunity to really say everything and explain her whole side. And the listener is supposed to just be listening. So it's good that the therapist kind of put them back on track, and that'll happen on occasion.
One of the things that I just heard her say is she has to have a sense of purpose outside of this relationship.
Yes.
right? That she has to have something that represents Liz.
Yeah.
No, I got it.
That's not the expression you make when you got it. That's the expression you make when you're confused or when you're feeling stressed out because, oh my gosh, your girlfriend's going to go back to work and she's going to cheat on you. I don't think he gets it at all. The problem for Ed is that the therapist is going to walk them down this line where behaviors are going to start to change and Liz is going to start to stand up for herself more, and she has the support of the therapist. So my assumption is that this whole therapy thing isn't going to be talked about again. I would guess that this is the first and last time that we see this therapist. And if it doesn't happen right away, it's going to happen sooner or later, because I don't think Ed really wants to change. I think Ed wants to appear like he wants to change, but I don't think he's willing to do the work to make that happen. I think he's still very entrenched in manipulation. And again, I hope I'm wrong. I could be wrong. I am wrong all the time. It is shocking how wrong a person can be. And I am a person, and I can be wrong.
So for me, to feel unconditional love.
There are going to be conditions. We're humans.
Okay, so there are.
They're not our parents. They're not our dogs. Yeah. Our partners have conditions to want to stay in the relationship. Do you think sometimes that you put pressure on Liz to give you love unconditionally?
At times, I think I do.
When she's asking to want to work, does it feel like a condition of your relationship?
I want Liz to work. I want Liz to have her own life. And it saddens me that I'm coming off as controlling. And I have to admit, based on the past, that Liz going back to work does scare me.
It's not coming off as controlling. It is controlling. And this goes back to another video that I put out where I said the exact same thing. You can't repackage controlling behavior and say it just looks that way. No, it is that way.
Yeah. My main reservations are working late shifts, coworkers wanting to go out and party. It's the environment. Some of the same people that, were at the engagement party that started the fight and that don't support us, work at a restaurant. At this point, we're really in survival mode from the engagement party fiasco. And now why are we re-inviting outside pressure that will really cause this relationship, not to work?
She needs to have a separate life so that she can love you fully.
That's it for this week, you guys. Thanks for watching. What do you think is going to happen with this therapist? Is this the last time that we see her? Are we ever going to see her again? In the previews for next week, it looks like we get some. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. It makes a huge difference for me. It doesn't cost you a cent. I hope you have a wonderful week. See you next time.